Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex. Lord, rocking the Braves jacket today, hoping that the winter meetings will bring back, it's been mum is the word, but as we know with the Atlanta Braves, that's typically how it comes before we see one of those blue squares. So hopefully something like that happens. We saw Juan Soto. I'm sure we'll talk about that later in the show, but we're going to start off with the disappointing Atlanta Falcons. They walk into Minnesota and find new ways to lose, as they've done seemingly every week. This week, it was the defense faltering, several blown coverages, some too soft coverages. We did actually see a pass rush for a second week in a row, which is a little bit exciting, but you give up 42 points. You give up 5 touchdowns to Sam Darnold. You fumble a ball on special teams, and you have 2 untimely picks from Kirk Cousins, as well as a boatload of penalties. You're just not going to win on the road against anybody, let alone a team that entered the game 10-2 and is now 11-2.
Yeah, all the conversations are going to surround Kirk Cousins this week, and rightfully so. I mean, we're going to talk about it, I'm sure, ad nauseum this week. So prepare yourselves. If you want me to break down other points of the game, this is you. This is for you. The entire team is at fault. And if it's not Kirk Cousins in the offense, it's defense and the special teams. If it's not defense and the special teams, it's the offense. If all of those things are working, it's untimely penalties. If it's not that, it's Raheem Morris making boneheaded in-game decisions. What could go wrong for the Falcons did go wrong. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I'm going to defend the defense a little bit. That's as good of a defensive performance you'll ever see, giving up 42 points. I know that sounds crazy. I am fine with what happened because let's revisit. One of the touchdowns was complete bullcrap. It was Sam Darnold's arm getting hit and somebody in the secondary. I think it was Jesse Bates not finding the ball. That was the underthrown. Justin Jefferson walked in the touchdown. Second touchdown, phantom penalty, fake penalty. One of the craziest penalties I've ever seen in my entire life. Just a blatant fake penalty. I mean, there's no other way to describe a holding call on rushing a field goal. That doesn't exist. That is such a fake penalty. Obviously, Vikings get a first down. They go on and score a touchdown. So we'll at least say those 4 points. The 3 points were suspected. A couple of other touchdowns were one, Ray McLeod fumble. You can't really hold the defense, and you can't ask them to be, superstars. They've been good enough, but they weren't that good. Another Kirk Cousins short yardage position, and then at the end of the game, it was yet another blown coverage, lousy. Should have had a sack. No idea what D. Alford was even looking at, and then another Justin Jefferson walked in touchdown. So while it's impossible to say, good job, Chase, you gave up 42 points, I won't stand for the fact that people are going, well, Kirk Cousins didn't give up 42 points. Shut up. That was as good of a job as a defense could do while giving up 42 points. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. There are definitely some promising aspects, most notably the pass rush.
What is going on?
Caden Ellis. They've really started using Caden Ellis a lot more in that pass rush, and I think it's completely changed the unit. I mean, it's opened up different things. It's opened up different looks. I think that's been a huge part in the Falcons' pass rush. They have 4 or 5 sacks. They have 10 sacks over the
last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they could have had more. I mean, they pressured him a lot. They actually looked competent when it comes to rushing the passer. I thought, when you're talking about what went wrong for the defense, and it goes back to coaching. I mean, I think Jimmy Lake did a lot of questionable things, whether it was leaving D. Alford one-on-one with Justin Jefferson. I mean, that's just not right.
That's not good football.
That's not what you do. Especially when AJ Terrell had a lot of success. If there was ever going to be a time where you wanted maybe, hey, let's use him in a shadow role, even though that's not something they do too often, this is the kind of guy you do it on. You don't let D. Alford, if you want to play man coverage, you don't let D. Alford do it. Tell him beforehand, hey, it's man coverage, but at least we have our best corner on our guy. Because if Sam Darnold figures that out and it's D. Alford on him, he knows exactly where it's going. And you can say the same thing about Jordan Addison, who had another fantastic game. I think, and then there were some soft shell coverages, particularly in short yardage situations, where I was like, why are you giving up a 5-yard pass when they need 6 yards? What are we doing here? So there were some coverage things, schematic things that I thought Jimmy Lake was absolutely terrible at, which he's been terrible at throughout the season. He should definitely be fired at the end of the season. I've seen enough of Jimmy Lake. I'm just done with it. Raheem Morris, coaching decisions, looks like he's way in over his head.
Let's talk about some of those decisions. I mean, you go for it early in the game on 4th down, you get it, and you go on and score a touchdown. and we go, see, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. This coming in Minnesota, 10-2 football team. That's how you beat a 10-2 football team. Very next offensive possession, we get in a very, very similar fourth down. Don't go for it. Very, very peculiar considering what you just went through. Couple of drives later, one of the weirdest situations I've ever seen. Falcons are 4th and 7 around midfield. Vikings jump off sides. 4th and 2. Raheem Morris, you had just gone for it, sends out the offense to just try and get them to jump off sides.
Yeah. And not only that, he negated a punt that punted them down to around the 10-yard line. They end up getting a touchback, 10 yards of field position. Not a huge deal, but it's just another one of those little things where you're like, what are you?
We're not paying attention to details.
Like what do you? Yeah,
and it starts with him.
All the little things that. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that from the unmotivated. I mean, we've been complaining about Raheem Morris. He deserves blame, and a lion's share of the blame. Like, not only that, like this is not his first rodeo as a head coach. Like these are the kind of things that maybe you got wrong in your first time that you're supposed to be getting right. You're supposed to go to Arthur Blank and say, I learned this, and this, and that every little thing matters in this league, especially when I'm trying to get wins on the road and must-wins games, and we're not doing it. There's just so many things that he's doing wrong, and frankly, I miss Arthur Smith. I can't believe I'm saying that, but not only do I miss Arthur Smith, I actually miss the way that he handled things in the post-game presser, because at least he would like stone face you and say, yeah, that's crap. That's not good enough. Whatever.
Kirk has got to be way better. You would never hear Raheem Morris say that.
I could not believe some of the things that were coming out of Raheem Morris's mouth about Kirk Cousins' performance because he threw for 300 yards when 7 weeks earlier, stats don't matter.
80 of those yards came on in garbage time.
Stats are for losers. Stats are for this. And the first thing he brings up, he threw for 300 yards. Buddy, he also threw one of the worst interceptions again. Clean pocket. Great blitz pickup from Bijan Robinson. Throws it right to a defender after double clutching. Like, that is terrible. And then he overthrows Kyle Pitts for the game-sealing interception. Like, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 4 weeks. Can we all just say he sucks? Like, he's at least sucked up?
Well, I think it would be one thing if Raheem Morris didn't call out other people, whether it be Kyle Pitts or Zach Robinson. He has called out individuals this season in terms of, we got to be better in this area. Z-Rob's got to be better. He knows that. Defending this game. Listen, I think Kirk Cousins, he did play better. But he
couldn't play worse.
He was, again, that is a huge thing. Like last week, Kirk Cousins said something about, I think I played better. Well, I'd hope so. That was the worst thing I've ever seen against the Chargers last week. But to pretend he wasn't part of the problem, you're acting like we're dumb. Like we're not also watching the same game. I don't understand what you gain by still sugarcoating and holding a 40-year-old man's hand and going, our 10-year vet played well. He didn't play well. He can handle it. And if he can't handle it, this is the whole point. Like, screw him. Get rid of him.
I mean, Bill Belichick was out there actively criticizing Tom Brady like he was the worst
quarterback of all time.
He was the worst quarterback because he held him to a standard so high that if he made one little mistake, he was going to get on him because that was the standard. And I don't understand why we aren't holding Kirk Cousins to a higher standard because he's the 13-year veteran. He's the guy making $50 million.
$180 million.
He's the guy who has 30 turnovers this year. Like, I'm sorry, but that is absolutely ridiculous. And for him to come out after the game and basically like point out we didn't do enough for Kirk Cousins to get him to win in his comeback is just an absurd thing to say. And it just makes me feel like this entire thing with Raheem Morris, like I hate to say it after just 13 games, it just feels like he's way, way in over his head from the motivational things that we've talked about, from guys not being prepared, from the little things, from these kind of comments. It's just like, are you ready for this? Because it doesn't seem like you're ready to do what's necessary to win football games at a consistent rate like we brought you in to do. Because like we said before the year, we're expecting to be competitive right away. You drafted a guy because you said, we're never going to be in this position again. We're never going to be in the top 10 again. So we need to get our quarterback now, even though we just...
Idiot.
You can't say all this crap.
It's hilarious. Last week, excuse me, after the Chargers game, he comes out to the media and says, I don't really anticipate Kirk Cousins throwing many more interceptions right after that Chargers game. Well, guess what, buddy? 2 interceptions, still 0 touchdowns.
Guys.
It's like Raheem Morris wasn't with the Falcons for so many.
2 interceptions didn't even do the amount of interceptable balls justice. I mean, he threw a clear interception, which Drake London, and it was a bad call. Like, it stood because
tie goes to the runner.
Yeah.
I won't stand for that.
Yes, but if that it stood only because they made that call. Like, in live time, we all thought it was a pick.
Yeah.
It looked kind of like it could have been reversed, but there wasn't enough there because it was just this like tie, whatever. If that thing goes the other way, like we're talking about 3 picks, and
there was points off that too.
And there were several other possessions or several other balls where you're like, dude, Kirk's just begging to throw another one. And the tipped passes, I mean, dude, he was bad.
He had like 8 tip passes.
Dude.
I mean, maybe that I completely pulled that out of my butt, but it felt like at least half of a dozen.
I mean, it was bad. It was not good. It wasn't the worst thing ever, and it was better.
Right.
But it was not good.
It wasn't even close to what he did in the Chargers. But again, what do we say? What is the bar for this guy? He's not a 3rd-round rookie in Desmond Ridder where we go, well, he was better than last week. That's not the bar. The bar is much, much higher. The bar is what he was doing against the Buccaneers earlier in the season. The simple fact of the matter is, and we're going over here, I'd love to talk more about, we could spend all day talking about the Falcons. Arthur Blank, Raheem Morris, Kirk Cousins, all 3 deserve their own individual segments because I've got time this Monday. It's just a lousy ran organization. And when you keep doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result, you're insane.
Yeah.
That's what I have
and
to say.
I've said, I think I started saying this 4 or 5 weeks ago, but Raheem Morris, this entire first year, and really the way that he talks about people, the stupid slogans that he uses,
we're out running the South. Well, buddy, we already got passed. We just got passed.
It's Dan Quinn 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because he coached under Dan Quinn. It seemed like everything that he's doing is exactly like Dan Quinn. And maybe that's what Arthur Blank wanted. Like, hey, let's rekindle the magic. We'll talk more Falcons because why not? Coming up after the break.